as a long line of MAGA white supremacist and extremist groups and terrorist organizations and those convicted of seditious conspiracy against the United States line up with their hands out to get money from Donald Trump's slush fund, as the Democrats work overtime in the House and the Senate to try to block Donald Trump's slush fund, created unconstitutionally and illegally, in part of the settlement with his phony IRS case, which now turns out to be nothing more than a smokescreen for what he really wanted to accomplish, which is to have $100 million of tax exposure and liability and audit liability disappear as part of the settlement against himself and his family. Now we've got, well, let's just put that the White House is reconsidering aspects of the fund because there seems to be no political will, no Republican support, no popular support for this depraved slush fund. And now you've got people like Todd Blanche going back on television and thinking better of having told the American people during his Senate appearance this week that, well, if the people who attack the police or convicted child sex traffickers or abusers want to apply for the money, there's nothing we can do about it. That seems to be even a bridge too far for most people. I just had the distinct pleasure of interviewing for Legal AF and the MeidasTouch Network, Brendan Ballou, the CEO of Public Integrity Project, who brought now what is the first lawsuit against the Trump slush fund brought by his clients, two former Capitol Police officers, Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges. And they are that case has now been assigned, wait for it, to Judge Leon, right, Richard Leon, the George W. Bush appointee, who's the ballroom judge, who knows his way around being misled by the Trump administration. I cover it all here on the MeidasTouch Network and for Legal AF. Let's get down to the story. Case by Public Integrity, and the Public Integrity Project gets filed. They anticipate exactly what is happening now, which is people lining up, extremist groups, Enrique Tarrio of the Proud Boys saying, I won't be greedy. One network or OAN network lining up for money. I mean, if you gave all these extremist, radical white nationalists and others the money, you'd have to have a fund that was 10 times the size. And funding of terrorist organizations is exactly the point of the lawsuit, that this fund finances insurrectionist and paramilitary groups just in time for the midterms. And this case has now been assigned. It's the only case right now. There's going to be more, I assure you. But the only case right now on the docket is Harry Dunn and Daniel Hodges versus Donald Trump, Todd Blanche, Scott Bessent, to stop the fund and put it out of its misery, put it out of our misery. And I had the distinct honor of interviewing Brendan Ballou after we all found out that Judge Leon of the Ballroom fame had been assigned to the case. And here's a clip. Let's do some inside baseball because our audience really enjoys that, even though most of them are not lawyers, but they certainly like being here at the intersection of law and politics. You've got your judge assignment. It looks like it's Judge Richard Leon, who's, for those that follow Legal AF, which they do, he's the ballroom judge. He of many exclamation marks. When is your first, when do you think you'll be in court with Judge Leon?
Yeah, we don't have a status conference yet, but, standard civil procedure. I imagine the Department of Justice is going to file a motion to dismiss, as they always do. So that's, when the ball really starts rolling. I think, we're in a fortunate situation in that Judge Leon is, a Republican appointed judge, I think has conservative bona fides, but also has a true independent streak. And I think is really outraged by a lot of the recent illegal actions. The Ballroom example is a great one. And so I think he's going to understand, especially as a judge that has served in the District of Columbia and has handled these sort of January 6 cases in the past, I think is going to understand the real physical dangers that a fund like this creates for our clients.
Now, what we're fearful of is what you just heard, that Trump is trying to rearm and fund a paramilitary organization to do his bidding, at his beck and call for the midterms and for the 2028 election. And he's arming them and funding them with your and my taxpayer dollars. Now, let's talk about Judge Leon for a moment. Judge Leon famously wrote during his Ballroom opinions in the case that he did not believe the White House or the Trump administration did not believe that national security was at risk because of a excavation pit created by Donald Trump where the East Wing used to sit and for the Ballroom, and wrote many things in his order that were effectively rhetorical eye-rolling with lots of exclamation marks. Now, his order has been blocked while the appellate court gets their arms and minds around the appeal. And so construction below ground of the Ballroom continues. But right on cue, and that's not the only case he's handled that has prepared him for this moment to be the judge in charge of whether this fund goes forward or not, whether it's unconstitutional, whether it's violating of statutes, whether it violates the Administrative Procedures Act, because he's also handled cases where Donald Trump's gone after and weaponized the Department of Justice and his own administration to try to take law firms that he didn't like, that hired people he didn't like or his perceived political enemies, or refused to represent Donald Trump, tried to blackmail them and blackball them to cut off their ability to appear in front of the federal government, represent clients, or represent the federal government, cutting their revenue in half. Judge Leon, along with Amy Berman Jackson, along with Judge Beryl Howell, all collectively said no to that, and that they were not going to allow it. And that looks like it's going to be affirmed on appeal based on a recent oral argument. So Judge Leon is prepared. I think he's the perfect judge for this case. And we're going to continue to follow it there. At the same time, the Trump administration is trying to figure out how to do backflips and get away from Todd Blanche not committing to having people who abuse the police being able to apply to the fund. Here's Van Hollen, Senator Van Hollen, cross-examining Todd Blanche to within an inch of his life just earlier this week. Play the clip.
You're his former personal attorney, and you know exactly what he wants. In fact, he often posts it right here on social media, his Truth Social account. He wants to weaponize the department for his own political ends. And right from the start, you and your cohorts have worked to deliver what he wants, doing his political dirty work. This is an outrageous, unprecedented slush fund that you set up. Simple question, will individuals who assaulted Capitol Hill police officers be eligible for this fund?
Well, as it makes plain, anybody is
just let me know if they're eligible for the fund.
As was made plain yesterday, anybody in this country is eligible to apply if they believe they're a victim of weaponization.
Mr. Attorney General, let me ask you this. Are there going to be rules that say that if you've assaulted a Capitol Hill police officer or committed a violent crime, you will not be eligible? Why not make that a rule?
I expect that, because I'm not one of the commissioners setting up the rules, I expect that there will be rules.
You're appointing 4 of the 5 members, aren't you, Mr. Attorney General?
Pardon me?
You're appointing 4 of the 5 members.
I am appointing all 5 members.
You can certainly set up the rules. I would hope you would make a rule that anyone convicted of assaulting a police officer or a violent crime is simply not eligible. They should not apply. Do you know that it is a criminal offense to lie to Congress?
I am very well aware of that.
Well, now that Congress and the Republicans look like they don't support the fund either, and put right next to that the Ballroom $1 billion funding was just killed by the Republicans in the Senate. What do you think they're going to do with this fund? This is not the time when people are concerned about affordability. They can't pay rent. They can't pay for health care. They can't pay for gas at the gas pump or food at the supermarket to be bestowing on President Trump $1 billion for a ballroom or $1.76 billion for the white nationalist terrorist paramilitary funding slush fund, or to let Donald Trump and his family out from $100 million worth of tax exposure. There's no political will for this. So now you have Todd Blanche trying to fix it on CNN. Play the clip.
You're the nation's top law enforcement official right now. Would you be okay with people who were convicted of hurting police getting taxpayer money?
Just to be clear, people that hurt police get money all the time. Okay, there's a process where if you believe you have your rights violated, you can apply for funds, you can sue, you can file a claim, you can go to court. In some of those cases, the state, the government, the federal government settles those cases. It's abhorrent to ever touch a law enforcement officer, which is why anytime anybody does that, and it's a federal officer, we'll prosecute them. But that's a completely different question with whether an individual is allowed to apply for a claim.
There's going to be a lot of developments in the first lawsuit that's been filed. Status conference will be coming up soon with Judge Leon. And I'm assuming today or tomorrow, certainly before Memorial Day, there will be one or two additional lawsuits that will be filed against the Trump slush fund. This lawsuit brought by Dunn and Hodges, brought by Public Integrity Project, does not touch the constitutional issues, really. I mean, it talks about the 14th Amendment and how you can't pay the debts of insurrectionists. That's a good one. But it doesn't get to the heart of the emoluments clause that prevents a president from taking a benefit, a gift, a commission, a economic value in addition to his salary paid during the year. That will be addressed by other suits. I predict there'll be at least two other lawsuits that will be filed with different judges, all trying to obtain the same thing, which is to have the weaponization fund put out of its misery. I'll follow it all right here on MeidasTouch and on Legal AF. Until my next report, come over to Legal AF YouTube channel. 12 fresh videos every day. And our Legal AF Substack as well. Until then, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.